pintunya!
The story begins in a small village in Indonesia, where people believe that children should never go out in the evening, because that's the moment when between day and night, darkness awakens. If anyone is seen outside during that time, it's said that death itself comes searching for them. But just like everywhere else, there are always some who treat traditions as superstition. That's exactly what happened with a group of students. After their match, all the friends decided to stop by a nearby mosque to pray, hoping no evil force would follow them. But one of the boys, who was just a reserve player, refused to go. He was angry because he had fought with the main player during the match. "I don't need any prayers," he said. "I can take care of myself." The others mumbled under their breath and got into the van. As darkness slowly took over, the bus drove through a forest road. The driver and passengers were laughing and joking, when suddenly a man appeared right in the middle of the road. There was no time to hit the brakes. A loud crash followed. Everyone rushed out of the bus and saw the man lying motionless on the ground. Out of fear, they covered his body with banana leaves. Meanwhile, Wulan went back into the van, trembling and crying. Just then she heard a whisper in her ear. "I'm watching you." She turned around, but no one was there. A few moments later, as if drawn by some unseen force, she got up and started walking into the dark forest. By the time the others realized what was happening, she had already vanished. Everyone split up to search for her. Andro, the tallest boy wearing an orange jacket, went looking alone. Suddenly, something caught his eye, and his face froze in terror. Meanwhile, Yoko, the boy with curly hair, turned around and saw Wulan standing right behind him, holding a large rock in both hands, about to smash it over his head. But before she could strike, the driver's loud scream echoed through the forest, and she stopped. The next moment, Wulan collapsed, as if her soul had been sucked out of her. Panic spread. The police were called, and villagers gathered around. There had been 8 students in total, but only 2 returned alive, Yoko and Wulan. The other 6 were never found. When the girl returned home, there was a strange emptiness in her eyes. She didn't say a single word. That night, Yoko had a dream. All the kids were back in the field playing soccer again. But this time, the shadowy figures of the kids were standing with their backs toward him, completely silent, as if someone had removed the replay button from their lives. Suddenly, he woke up from the nightmare, his heart pounding so fast it felt like it might burst out of his chest. He went to the kitchen to drink some water, hoping it would calm his nerves. That's when he heard a strange, painful cry from outside. It was his pet dog. The poor thing was crying like someone had heard it. Slowly, he walked toward the door and peeked outside. But what he saw froze him in shock. His little dog was lying on the ground, its neck covered in deep wounds. And right in front of it stood that same girl, Wulan, crouched down, tightly gripping a blood-soaked knife. She slowly lifted her head, her eyes cold and lifeless. Not human, but something from another world. Yoko collapsed in fear, and when he came to, Wulan was gone. But the real horror began when he realized she was now inside the house. Just then, his aunt, Suwarti, heard the noise and rushed out of her room. She found Yoko trembling on the floor. She shook him awake, gave him some water, and as soon as he came to his senses, he ran straight to Wulan's room. When he opened the door, Wulan was sleeping peacefully, as if nothing had happened. He just stood there confused, unable to tell if what he'd seen was a dream or reality. But what he didn't know was that Wulan's hands were actually covered in blood. The next morning, the villagers were still searching for the missing children. They scoured the entire forest, but there was no trace of them anywhere. Then some people found several dead animals at the edge of the forest, brutally killed, as if torn apart by something merciless. At school, the teacher asked all the kids to pray for their missing classmates. Everyone bowed their heads except for Wulan. She was smiling, a faint, eerie smile on her lips, as if she already knew everything. Her eyes had a cold, unsettling gleam, as though she saw the whole thing as nothing more than a game. During the break, a boy named Bonus went to the restroom to wash his face. Suddenly, he saw the shadow of a girl enter. He thought it was Wulan and stepped forward to look, but then, a voice whispered behind him, "Is someone here?" He jumped in fear, and when his friends rushed in moments later, there was no one there. Wulan had disappeared again. On their way back home, the 3 friends were silent. Yoko finally said, "What we saw last night wasn't a dream." The other 2 listened, and one of them replied, "My grandfather used to tell me that about 20 years ago, kids from the same village disappeared just like this. Only one came back, and later he killed all the animals in the village before hanging himself." Hearing that, all 3 of their faces turned pale. Now everyone was starting to believe that something truly dangerous was happening with Wulan, or maybe she wasn't even human anymore. Suddenly, the sound of running footsteps caused panic throughout the village. Everyone started running in the same direction. When the three friends arrived, they saw two small animal carcasses skinned on the ground again. People were saying it was the result of a curse, one that the missing children had brought upon the village after angering some invisible force. Yoko shuddered at the sight. He remembered the blood from the previous night, and Wulan's terrifying face. A horrifying thought crossed his mind. Could she have done all this? Without saying a word, he ran straight home. He opened the door and peeked into Wulan's room. She was peacefully sleeping. Aunt Suarti said softly, "Son, she's been sick since yesterday, just sleeping." Hearing that, he sighed in relief, thinking maybe he was wrong. Exhausted, he lay down on the sofa. But then he suddenly felt like someone was watching him. When he opened his eyes, he saw Wulan standing in the corner of the room. Her eyes were glowing strangely, and the silence was so deep, he could hear his own heartbeat. Just then, Suarti entered the room. Meanwhile, Anton was sitting alone at his house when he heard a knock at the door. Thinking it was one of his friends, he opened it, but no one was there. He shut the door, and that's when he noticed something outside the window. The missing children were standing there, their eyes completely white, staring straight at him. When he turned around, Andrew was standing right behind him, motionless like a puppet. Behind him stood the other 5 children, their eyes empty, void of any humanity. The scene shifts. The story now moves to Anis's house. He's on the phone with someone, when suddenly the door starts to open by itself. Andro appears again, bent over in a strange, unnatural position. Anis's hands start trembling. His breathing becomes heavy. He steps back, but there are already 4 children standing behind him. Their faces are pale, their eyes blank and lifeless. Within seconds, they surround him from all sides. Hearing the noise, Debo senses that Anis might be in trouble. He bumps into Yoko on the way, and the two of them start running together, but they don't realize that the sun has already set. And in this village, no one is allowed to step outside after sunset. Still, fear was stronger than tradition, so they rushed straight toward Anis's house. As soon as they arrived, 3 strange shadowy figures blocked their path, the same missing children. The other 3 were now on the roof, their white eyes glowing and their crooked smiles spreading. Suddenly, Andro lunges at them. People nearby rush in to help, but they too fall victim to the children's knives. Yoko tries desperately to bring his friends back to their senses, but they're no longer children. They've turned into demons, ones who don't even blink before killing. Running through the narrow village paths, the 2 friends use their quick reflexes and familiarity with the place to dodge attacks for a while. Suddenly, the screech of brakes pierces the air. A car stops beside them. Adi shouts, "Get in quick!" They jump into the car, finally catching their breath as it speeds away. But soon, the sight ahead chills their blood. The same missing children are dragging someone backward, and Anis is among them. Then Wulan appears walking slowly. Her eyes have lost all traces of humanity. The children around her stand like lifeless puppets, obeying her every command. And then that terrifying figure reveals itself, the white-haired shape that possessed Wulan. Anis screams. The same people who had just been saved now look more terrified than ever. Adi explained that this was not an ordinary incident. Their village had been prey to similar terrible events for years. Once someone had said something cruel in a fit of anger, and ever since, a dreadful, cursed thing had begun to hover over the village. At that time, Adi had lost a close friend to the same fear. At first, it showed cruelty toward domestic animals. Then, it turned on its own family, and finally, it took its own life. Adi knew the intensity of that fear well, because he himself had once been a potential target, and for some strange reason, the spirit had not chosen him. The next morning, the village fell silent. Some people found the bodies of the children near the woods, the same children who had disappeared the night before. The village held a funeral, and Adi stood watching from across the river. Then his eyes fell on Wulan, and he knew she had become the new home for that evil spirit. Her face had the same demonic-like gleam he had seen in the past. Bitterness and anger that had been simmering inside Adi for a long time now boiled over. He vowed to destroy this evil, but Wulan warned him in a calm tone. To stand against it would mean risking those children's lives, because its powers were terrifyingly strong. Years of pain and the fire of revenge flared up in Adi's eyes. In anger, he said he would destroy the demon. The demon smiled and said that if given time, it would devour the children's souls and become something horrific, something hellish. With that warning, the matter took an even darker turn. Adi trembled with rage, but when he turned, the demon-ridden Wulan was standing across the river, a demonic smile on her face. A short while later, Adi gave 2 children a special protective symbol and told them to hang it on Wulan's room and on every door in the house. That way, she wouldn't be able to go outside. The 2 children ran home and began the work. Just then, Wulan and her aunt returned. The moment Wulan saw the symbol hanging on the door, the demon inside her flared up. She screamed so loudly the walls shook. At that very moment, Adi arrived. He quickly muttered a mantra and placed the symbol on Wulan's head. The last word was left unsaid when 2 guards and some villagers rushed in, knocked Adi to the ground, and tied him up. Actually, Wulan had already spread a lie that Adi was a sorcerer who cast spells on children. In rage, the villagers began to see Adi as a villain. In a sudden move, Adi broke free and grabbed Wulan by the throat, trying to force the demon inside her to come out. But before he could do anything, he was captured again. Meanwhile, Wulan quietly made her way to the village's radio station. She knocked out the man working there and took the microphone. Then, she began to sing a mysterious, haunting song. That voice hypnotized all the children in the village. Their eyes turned white and they started walking in one direction like robots. Even those 2 kids got caught in her spell. Within minutes, all the children vanished and the 6 boys who had disappeared earlier reappeared, holding glowing sickles in their hands. Adi pleaded with the guard, "Let me go or it'll be too late." The guard hesitated at first, but when he saw the chaos spreading through the village, he cut the ropes. Adi ran out as fast as he could, while the others fought the 6 possessed boys. Suddenly, he remembered what Wulan had said, that she would end everything near the graves. Hearing that, Adi ran there like lightning and saw something terrifying. All the missing children were gathered in the cemetery. The demon revealed its true form and used Wulan's body to control the rest of the kids. Adi's heart shattered. He couldn't bear to see it anymore. He shouted to the demon, "If you want a soul, take mine. Just let these children and Wulan go." The demon smiled because it had been after Adi's soul for the past 20 years. Without hesitation, it accepted the deal and entered Adi's body. But what happened next shook even the devil itself. It couldn't completely take control of him. Using the last of his strength, Adi began chanting a sacred spell. The children's faces twisted in pain. The ground started shaking, and the demon couldn't withstand the power of the chant. With his final breath, Adi shouted, "This ends now," and jumped into the river. In the next moment, a brilliant light spread across the sky, and everything went silent. The children regained consciousness. The village fell quiet, and Wulan collapsed unconscious on the ground. Adi's body was never found, but everyone knew he had sacrificed himself to save the entire village. A statue in his honor was built by the riverside, where children now come every year to offer flowers. And with that, the story comes to an end. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. See you later.